Now that you understand your competitors' backlinks, rankings, and traffic, it's time to actually take action on that information and maximize links for your own SEO campaigns to manually build links for the content that you just published. What you can do is really, once you have found those authoritative sites that have do follow backlinks, you can really manually reach out to them by email to pitch your latest blog post or product. To give you an example of this, I'm going to come into one of the do follow backlinks that I've found here. I'm going to see where my competitor was referenced here, and you can see in this article here that they have really a list of resources right down the bottom. So I could find out the contact information for the author of this blog. That can take a little bit of digging to do, maybe through LinkedIn, through Twitter, contact them that way. But you could also say, hey, I came across your article with the title X, and notice you referenced this particular article. It's one of my favorites. I've also put together a checklist for new websites and SEO audience. Perhaps you want to reference that as well, and that is potentially how you can easily add a backlink from a website that will do it, have a do follow link back to your website. So the one thing that I would say is that is a bit of a grind to do. You should expect them to be a 5% response rate from these cold emails. But even if you can get a couple of links, 5 links out of 100 requests, those 5 links could really make the difference, because they're do follow links from high authority sites, and that can really help you out. Another thing that you can do to maximize links for your SEO campaigns is search for existing non-linked content using these two tools here. So let me give you an example of this. I'm going to come to BuzzSumo. You can maybe type in the name of a brand or a company. You'd obviously do this for yourself, but as I'm just getting started, I don't have something to reference. So let's just put in a local company here in Dublin here. And what I can see now are some of the articles where this business has been mentioned. And if I click this open, what I could see is that the company is referenced here, but there's actually no link back to their website. It'd be great to maybe reach out to this website owner and say, fantastic to have the article there, delighted to have it, but could you include a link back to our website from our brand name? That'll help increase your authority, particularly because this website has a good domain authority as well, a very good domain authority. So that is another way that you can maximize links, not only for your SEO campaigns, but for your website in general. And essentially you just want to contact the owner and ask them to kindly link back to you if possible. So you don't want to be too pushy. Do not expect a huge response rate on this, but it's definitely worth doing this work because it's really an easy way to get backlinks to your website. So that is the process. In the next lecture, we're going to talk about the type of content that can really generate a lot of links and social shares. In the last lecture, you learned how to maximize your SEO campaigns. And in this lecture, we're covering the final point, the 26th point in our SEO checklist. And that is really how to create content that generates links and share social shares on autopilot. So I got 5 smarter ways for you to generate links and social shares. And I'm going to run through in this lecture each of them, give you an example. So you really have an idea about how can you create content that's really going to win, because there are certain formats of content and ways of figuring out what's working so you can really model what's been successful. And that's the first point here. You want to try and model content that's already been successful, that's already proven to generate links and social shares. And that is the reason why I picked that SEO checklist for my topic. I can see that there's already been a lot of links for that, and it's a format that has already proven to work. Now, another way you can find out what's already worked and model it is to use this tool called Sumo. You can use it to find proven content ideas and format. So if we come into this, it says exactly what it does here. You can analyze what content performs best for any topic or competitor. So you can put in even a competitor's brand name here, and you find out their best performing content. Now this is a free tool. You can use it for free, but there is an upgraded version that obviously gives you more information, the same way that a lot of the tools we've looked at work. What I'm going to do is just put in drones here. This is a topic, not particularly what I'm going after, but just as an example we can maybe all understand. So what I'm going to do here is type in drones here and search for this. And now what pops up is I can see a list of articles that have been published online in the past year. So that's filtered for the past year. And I can see the number of shares that it's got across the social networks as well. You can also view some of the backlinks here as well. Let's open this up. I need the pro version to find that. But even if you just look at the social shares, you can really see what content has been popular. Now what you could do is, okay, you're not going to be able to maybe write this exactly. Maybe what you can do is really have a look at the top articles, see what they've got in common. And I think one thing that comes to mind for me straight away when I see an article like this is what you could do is maybe write an article like the top 10 uses of drones. And one could be to protect, it could be a list. Number 1, protect the sea turtles. Number 2, I've heard people using drones to somehow, protect elephants and poachers and stuff like that. So that is something you could potentially do. Use this as a place for inspiration. You may not be able to just copy and paste something and use it on your site. But if this has got 87,000 shares, seems to be a lot of people are interested in finding out how drones are being used to protect nature, or even how drones are being used in general, and that's something that you can do. So that's just a small example, but that's essentially how the tool works. You can come here to find out the most popular content around the keyword, around the competitor, and there's all sorts of filters that you can use here. You can look at infographics, guest posts, giveaways, all sorts of different types of content as well. So this is a great place to start. If you want to model successful content, come into a tool like this and see what is already getting results. Because if something is already getting results, if you do something close to it or similar or model on it, then you have a much better chance of getting results yourself. Now, I was just talking about those like a best of list, and that is the second way that you can generate a lot of links and social shares on autopilot. So I have an example here that I'm going to open up, and I'm going to change the link on that later. But essentially you can see that this is just a best of list for the top 10 infographics for Internet Marketing Pros. So it's a list of the top 10 here. Now the smart thing about these best of lists is they're very easy to put together. You don't actually have to create a lot of content. You just have to find content that's already been successful and put it together in a list. And the beautiful thing about a piece of content like this is every single one of these 10 websites is going to want to share this post and link back to it, share it with their audience, because they've made it into the top 10. And so this is an extremely powerful way to include other people in your content, to get them to share content on your behalf because it's in their interest. It makes them look good. And if we look at our Moz bar here for this particular page, I can see that it has generated 114 links, which is a lot of links. That's probably bringing a lot of traffic and authority to this particular website. It probably did not take them very long to come up with this. They just had to find the best ones, put them together in a list, and share it out. So that is the second idea, to generate links and shares in autopilot. Because you're putting together people into a list, it's in their interest to share it out to their audience because it makes them look good, and that brings a lot of attention to you. Now the third way to generate links and shares on autopilot is to crowdsource content. So this is kind of similar to the best of list. It takes a little bit more work. You might have to tweet out to experts or email them and ask them for a contribution. So here's an example of that. I looked at this earlier in the course, 7 experts on why building your email list is so important. And you've got the experts here with their inputs. Now the great thing about this as well is that similar to the best of list, they're likely to share this out with their audience because it makes them look like an expert. It puts them in the company of all these other people, and that's just another way. It's a format that really is conducive to getting links and shares in autopilot, because you're really making other people look better, and when you make other people look better, they want to share it out. Now the fourth way to generate links and social shares on autopilot is to publish survey results, and I've got an example of this here. You could easily create a survey. You could even use the survey results from the Typeform online survey that you made earlier in the course. You could just gather those survey results up and publish them. And here's an example of that. So this guy, it's an SEO blog, but essentially what he did is he surveyed his audience, and then he put together a post about it here. So once again, people are very likely to link to this. You can see this has 1,177 links because it's showing them information about themselves, and they participated in the survey, they were involved in it, they were putting it together, and so you can see the number of respondents here. They're very likely to share that out afterwards because they've been involved in it, and the information is really sourced from them. So it's a very smart way to really get people to want to share out their content and say, you know, hey, I was part of this survey, check it out, and it makes people look good. Now the final way to generate a lot of links and social shares on autopilot is to create infographics. And here's an example of an infographic here. The way that these actually get links back to your website is people embed these infographics into their website using a piece of code like this. So you just copy and paste that and put that in, and then you will have a infographic like this on your page. Now this is a huge infographic. You can see it's got 486 links, but you can do something much simpler. You probably want to keep it to maybe 7 points, something like that. And there are tools that you can use to generate these. Pictochart is one. You can use this for free to create infographics, very simple. You can use Canva, which we've looked at before. You can use Infogram. There's another one here called visual.ly, and you can actually come to view here and you can search for some infographics. Let's stay with that same example, drones. Let's see if we can see anything here. And you can see, okay, 133 views, not much, but there are some examples of infographics here that are a bit simpler, and you can really search for a lot of infographics, or you can just search online something like drone infographics, and you're going to get examples here, and you can see all of the links once again using the same Mozart tool. So that is 5 ideas for you, 5 ways that you can generate links and shares on autopilot. Now, as I said, you might not be doing this right now, but you got to get your brain kind of thinking, how can I involve other people in the content that I'm making and give them a reason to share it out, or create a great resource like a checklist, a template, a download, something that has a lot of value for people. So that wraps up point number 26. I've got one final bonus tip. I think you'll like this. This is really how you can get to the top of the search engines quickly, even if you know it. In the last lecture, we wrapped up the final point on our SEO checklist, but I've got one little bonus for you here, I think this is especially relevant for brand new websites who really have no authority yet. And what you can do is really leverage the authority and audience of other websites to quickly get to the top of these search results. So what am I talking about here? You could think of it like guest posting. You can guest post on somebody else's website, or you can guest post on something like YouTube. Because if we come to the search results here, we turn on our Mozbar Chrome extension, and what you will notice is in the first page of the search results here, remember we looked at domain authority before. It's really how Google sees the authority of your site, all of the pages in aggregate. I can see here that YouTube has a domain authority of 100. That's probably no surprise. It's the second biggest website in the world. It's also owned by Google, so they're going to give that preference in these search results. And here you can see that I'm ranking on the first page of Google for a particular term. Even though my page authority is almost zero, nobody's linking straight to my video, hardly, but the domain authority of YouTube is so strong that it can get me to the front page of Google very quickly. So that is something to think about. What you want to do is maybe link back to your site or link off to whatever affiliate offer or whatever you have. It doesn't bring the authority straight to your site, but it'll get you on the first page of Google. So as well as YouTube, there are other opportunities. There's lots of other sites out there that have massive domain authority, and that can get you to the first page of Google. Let's have a look at another one here. What we're looking at here is Quora. So we talk about this later in the social media part of this course. A domain authority of 88, and you can see that for a search that has over 14,000 searches, Quora's question is on the front page here, and lo and behold, here I am, answered the question at the top. So that brings me in a massive amount of traffic. It's essentially like a ranking on the first page indirectly, and the way that you get there is through a high domain authority website like Quora. Let's look at another example, something very similar, Udemy. Here we go, Udemy, domain authority of 76. You can see I'm on the front page once again for a course that I've published on Udemy. So I'm leveraging their domain authority to really get on the front page. Very hard for me as a brand new website with no authority to get there, but I can get there indirectly through these high domain authority websites. Now the final one we're going to look at as an example here is SlideShare. This is a website where you can really publish presentations, and you can see for what is a product manager, 1,000 searches per month. Let's see it here, slideshare.net. You can see it's on the first page essentially, and it's built up a huge amount of views. Now this is not mine, but it's just another high domain authority website that you can use to get to the front page of Google, to get that visibility, and then you can send the traffic back to your website through links at the end of your video, in your Quora question, in your SlideShare, etc. So I'm going to disable this now, but there are plenty of other high domain authority platforms like this where you can publish your content. You can use it as a shortcut to get to the front page of Google, and then redirect the traffic back to your site. Now the best case scenario would be to have all the traffic coming to your website directly, but this can be especially a short-term solution to help build your audience while your own website is increasing its authority and getting those links. I'm going to wrap it up there, and in the next lecture I'm going to answer some SEO questions that I often get from students. In this video, you're going to learn one of the most effective marketing strategies out there. You can use it right away, even if you've no audience. I've used it personally here to get on a podcast that gets over 2 million unique downloads a month. I've used it to be featured on other blogs that has thousands of email subscribers and the exact target audience that I want to get in front of. And it is called the Poster Boy Formula. Now, I originally found out about this through this site, Video Fruit. Brian Harris is the author there. So I'm going to link this article because he explains it really well, but I do want to add my own twist and show you specifically how I've used it. So there are 4 steps to this strategy. Firstly, pick a target. So choose a company with a target audience. So for me, I knew that this podcast had my target audience, people who want to start a business, people who want to market. I also know that this company has a really SEO companies, web designers, digital marketing agencies. These are their audience, and that's the exact audience that I wanted to get in front of. Now we have to document everything. This is the key part of the strategy for you to become a poster boy for them, essentially a case study for them. You need to record one big win with their product or service, and the more details, the better. So to get on this podcast, what I actually did was I recorded a YouTube video showing how I used one of their products. This was a journal that helps you to complete a big goal of yours. And I really made this quick video. It was less than 1 minute long, just explaining how I'd used their product and how it had helped me to create a big course in 100 days. And that was a huge achievement for me at the time. And this journal really helped me to do it. So I just created this video. I shared it with them through their email, and then boom, they got in touch with me and wanted me on the podcast. Now, the second option here, what big win did I record? Well, these guys, they have a white label SEO tool. If I show you it here, this is what it looks like. You can put it on your site. And through this tool, I was able to collect 12,000 leads or email addresses. So again, what I did is I just got in touch with them and said, hey, I've had amazing results with your tool. Let me share my stories so your potential customers and your customers can really understand how to use it. And that's the key thing, and that's really why you're being a poster boy, because you're showing how you got this big win. And of course they're going to want to have you on the podcast. Of course they're going to want to write a blog post about it, because you were an example to show their potential customers and their existing customers about the potential of their product and service and what it can do if it's implemented in the right way. So the key thing about this strategy is really creating a success story. And of course, they're going to want to share that, because everybody wants to share success stories to really convince their audience that what they have created actually gets results if you put it to work. Now, step 3 in the process is let them know. So as I said, I just sent this video to them. Thought that would definitely catch attention. Sent it by email. And also then I just got in touch here via the option for guest posting. A lot of sites will have the email available, and you can easily contact people through LinkedIn, etc. Now, prepare for traffic. So have a high value downloadable on your site in order to capture the traffic. So this is what I did. I actually didn't do a particular downloadable, but I offered a coupon to my course, which is essentially what was the call to action at the end of the podcast. People get a coupon, a discount to enroll. Similarly for this article as well, I gave them the option to click straight through. Now the great thing about this is, as well as getting traffic, as well as building relationships with these top influencers, I also got a backlink to my site, and that is extremely valuable to get from a very high authority site like this. So this poster boy formula not only gets you traffic, not only gets you in front of your target audience, not only helps you build relationships with these big influencers, but you also get that SEO advantage by getting this backlink to your site from a huge site. So it is an extremely powerful strategy. There's only 4 steps to it. And the key thing is then to just really pick a target. It's going to be different for every type of business. It's not going to be this podcast, maybe not this blog, but every company will want to share a success story, whether that's at a conference, maybe offline, whether it's just via Twitter when they retweet you out, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's they bring you onto Facebook Live video, whether it's they bring you onto whatever it can be. The application, where it actually appears, can be slightly different depending on your industry. But think about what are the products that you've used that have a similar audience to you, maybe suppliers, maybe people are not direct competitors, but they're kind of friendly. And so really think about what are the things that you could get a big win out of and share the success story with. And you don't have to be using the product. In these cases, I actually was, but you can really search out people who have that audience. Just look at what products they have or what wins you could share and be quite strategic about it. You don't all automatically necessarily need to be using their product or service. You can actually go and use it with the intention of creating a win story and then using the poster boy formula. So I'll link this article. There's a few more details there, but I've had amazing results out of it, and I'd highly recommend you use the poster boy formula as well. Congratulations, you have now completed all 26 points on the SEO checklist. What I thought I'd do in this lecture is actually share student questions that I've received from my other SEO courses. Now, the purpose of doing this is really to reinforce what you've already learned here and to really share real student questions that I've received. Personally, I find the Q&A part of presentations or lectures that I go to the most interesting, because you really see real life questions that people have, and that really helps to reinforce what you've already learned. So we're not covering a lot of new ground here, but I think by hearing these questions and the answers, you'll probably answer questions you have yourself, and also this can really help you understand the information better by seeing the real questions that people have. So let us get straight into it, starting off with a question from Lionel here. He says, really, why is my competitor number one? Now, this often comes up. He has checked online. He sees that if he types in dog seller, they come up as number one. He's made the test, and sometimes the keyword dog seller doesn't even appear in the page. Could it be because of backlinks? Well, for the first thing that you should make sure is when you are checking your rankings or seeing who's appearing number one, you don't want to do it when you're signed into your Google profile, because Google will change your search results based on your previous history. So if I look for if I have visited puppyfind.com a lot of different times in the past, I type in dog seller, Google is going to bring that up as a search result because I've gone to it previously before. You really want to be checking here using Google Chrome incognito when you're not logged into your browser if you want to see the search results. Even better than that, if you want to get a more accurate view, you could use a tool like Ahrefs to really analyze the web page even more, to see the backlink profiles, etc. So that is really the steps that you should take. Use that incognito window to make sure your search results are not being personalized, and then also use the Ahrefs tool to understand better what the links to the profile, the keywords that they're ranking for, etc. Now, moving on to the second question, what could be the best SEO for the gaming niche? Now, this is a question that I often get asked. Okay, you've told us some examples, but that doesn't apply to my business. I think a lot of the time it does really apply. It's always the same strategy. You want to find the keywords, optimize the pages around those keywords, and build the links. It's really the same 3 steps for every website. If you are in any doubt that that does not apply to your particular niche, you should just go back to this step. Assess your competitors. See what is working for them. How are they getting traffic and rankings and backlinks to their site? Listed out a whole load of tools here that you can really find that out for. So if any doubt, go back and assess your competitors. So here is a question about really updating your title tag and meta description. And what Brian is saying here is, I already updated my tagline and also the meta description. Does it take time to update? Yes, it won't immediately appear in Google once you've changed it. Remember that Google might only come back to your site every couple of days to see if anything's changed. So you can expect those updates to come through in maybe 3 or 4 days, a week at maximum. Here's a question about backlinks. What is the maximum backlinks per month? Do we remove the older backlinks when we add the new ones? No, so there really is no maximum. The more backlinks that people are pointing to your content, to showing you that you're an authority around that website, the better. You don't remove backlinks, because remember, those backlinks are coming from other people's websites. Sometimes they do get lost, but yes, you do want to be building links on a continual basis. It's not something you do once. You want to be creating that content, building up your authority, even doing that manual outreach to website owners and asking them for links back to your site, making them aware of your content, using the tools that we saw here, like Mention.net and BuzzSumo, to find those non-existing, non-linked content. So here we go, Etsy Shop SEO. So Etsy is a really platform to sell products online, kind of like a smaller version of eBay or Amazon. And she's saying, what can I do to make my site more visible on Google? Well, it's the same steps once again. Also, I would recommend that you look at the SEO specific instructions for your platform. So example here, I was just pointing her back to Etsy, because they have instructions on, say, where you update your title tag, description, all that stuff. These steps are always the same. The on-page optimization stuff in particular, it just might differ slightly, the interface where you're putting all that stuff in. And so if that's the case, if you're using a platform like that, just go ahead and look for the instructions, and you're going to find exact instructions relevant to your particular platform. Another one that often comes up is, I'm using a website builder, Wix, etc. Do the same thing. Look for the support sections for your platform, and to really see where you update the things, what's the exact places on the interface, etc. Here is a question from Amira about keywords. She says, I want to be sure that I understand right. I should choose the keywords with low search volume regardless of the monthly searches. So this part is definitely right. You should choose those keywords with lower search volume. They'll be less competitive. They'll be easier to rank for if you go for those long tail keywords. And what you can do is take that portfolio approach, rank for multiple keywords, so your total volume of traffic will be significant. Now, this is the part that you'd really just want to point out. Not regardless of monthly search traffic, you definitely want to make sure there is some search traffic. If there's no figures in the search volume, it means that there's less than 10 searches a month. Probably not going to be worth your time. To show you an example, that I've typed in marketing strategies for Etsy, and you can see in the keyword planner here that it's just showing a dash. That means that there are less than 10 searches a month. So that exact keyword phrase is not something you might want to rank for. So to recap there, you do want to choose those less competitive, lower search volume, longer tail keywords, but do make sure that there is some search volume. You definitely don't be seeing those dashes there. Here's a question from Graham. This is quite an interesting one. He says he has a news website, and he's covering and trying to write articles about topics that don't necessarily have a historic search volume. So something maybe like the Chewbacca moan, that was like a big viral hit this year. Nobody would have been searching for that before. And so how does he really find out what is something popular to write about? What I said is you can use a tool like BuzzSumo. We talked about this before. You could come in here, you could type in whatever the kind of viral news topic is, and you'll be able to see the shares that this, articles with this topic in it got. So you can see all the different ones here. And also you could use Twitter search. You just come into twitter.com/search. You can type in the keyword. You can see what's really popular, what is getting a lot of tweets and reshares, etc. And that is a way that you can gauge the interest and the popularity of a keyword, even if it's something that people haven't historically searched for. So that is, I think, just an interesting question. Sometimes you do want to cover topics that don't have historic search volume, and that's really the way that you'd go about doing it. Here is a question from Anthony, and really he's trying to understand the difference between appearing on the first page of Google when you pay for it and when you don't pay for it. So the paid advertisements on the Google search results appear right at the top here. You can see it says ad. It's down the side as well. When we are doing SEO, we are not trying to advertise here. We're trying to naturally get to the top of the search results without paying. So we did look in the Google Keyword Planner tool, and even when we look at the let's just say when we looked at our Chrome extension tool, we're looking at the cost per click. And the reason that we're looking at the cost per click, the cost to really advertise and get to the top of the search results, is that it's an indication of how valuable the keyword is. If somebody is paying $7.01 to advertise for this keyword, then it's going to be a valuable keyword. It's just an indication of how valuable the keyword is. Something like, what is marketing? You can see that it has almost no value for the business because people are way up at the top of that awareness funnel, and nobody wants to advertise around that because they're not looking for a course or a checklist or something valuable like that. So I think it's a good point just to bring up. What we're really trying to do is naturally get to the top of the search results here. You can see these are not paid advertisements. The reason that we do look at this information about cost per click is really just more to understand the value of the keyword. We can use this as a guide to understand the value of a keyword. Here's a question from Maud that relates to link building. Another way that people describe link building is off-page optimization. So this is just a question really answering a jargon that's used in SEO. Off-page optimization is really the same as link building. It's really building up that authority outside of your website, getting people to point back to you. So the jargon can often confuse people. Off-page optimization is the same as link building. It's just optimizing your website off your web page and really getting people to point back to you and indicate you as an authority to Google around that keyword. So here's a question from a B-Plab about backlinking. He's just not quite understanding what it is. So he says, who is the one who creates these links? These are other website owners who have websites who link back to your website. How do you create them naturally? You have to create content that's really worth talking about, that's worth linking and sharing to. And why would somebody link to you? Well, it's really they want to tell their audience about your product or service, and so they include a link to direct their audience there, and we saw a couple of examples of that in the course. Here's a question from Jennifer. It relates to keyword research, and she's asking, does the Google Keyword Planner tool categorize keywords into head, body, and long tail keywords? So let's answer this question first. No. Inside the Google Keyword Planner tool, they don't differentiate between head, body, and long tail keywords. That's a chart we discussed. That's just a way to think about different types of keywords and break them down. So the head one is a one-word keyword, the body is a two-word keyword phrase, and the tail, the long tail of that graph, is 3 or more keywords. That is not equivalent to the competition listed in Google, meaning low, medium, high. So here inside the Google Keyword Planner, you can see competition low, you can see medium, and there'll be some high one there. What this competition refers to is really the competition between advertisers to pay for this term. So essentially you can just ignore that completely. It really just shows if there's low competition, it means there isn't a lot of advertisers advertising for this particular phrase, and you'll likely see that these phrases that have more competition have a higher cost per click. So that's what it is. Those two things are not related. The Google Keyword Planner does not show the head, body, and long tail keywords. That's just a way to really think about the types of keywords that you should be going after. And we really said we should focus on the body and long tail keywords because these are less competitive. So here's another question about the Google Keyword Planner tool. He's wondering what suggested bid means. What is the meaning of suggested bid? I don't understand what we have to pay for. So this is similar again. Remember that we're using the Google Keyword Planner tool. It's part of Google AdWords. Google AdWords is the advertising platform of Google. So they have information here that's relevant for advertisers. We are not advertising. We are just using this information as a guide. The suggested bid can give us a guide to really how valuable the keyword is, because we can see how much advertisers are willing to spend on it. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up here for the first part of this student Q&A session. That was really designed to help reinforce all of the points and actions that you've taken here. I'm going to do one more in the next lecture, some more challenging questions, so I'll see you there once again. In the last lecture, I answered some student questions to really help reinforce the information that you've just learned. We're going to do it once again. This time the questions are a little bit more challenging, and really situations when people with maybe who've had sites up and running are experiencing. So these might be questions that you'll be having a little bit further down the road, and you can really see how to deal with them through these questions. So let us really get straight into it here. I've got a question from Armand, a number of questions really, but I'm going to pick out some of the main points that I think are interesting here. So Armand's here has a local photography business, and he's wondering, for local search, I guess there's no point to target keywords which are under a certain search volume. So this is really a keyword research question, choosing your keywords. And he's asking really about, is there a point to answer keywords for local search that have maybe 20 searches or less? I think this is a great question. It really brings up, what is the, should it be 1,000 searches or more, or really how should you be thinking about this? Well, really what you should be thinking about is, how valuable would one of those visitors be? So if you can get 20 visitors to come to your website and rank number 1 for that, if each of those 20 people spend on average $150 per photography session, well then that's going to be extremely valuable to rank number 1. 20 multiplied by 150, that could be $3,000. That's how valuable it could be. So don't think about just the number of visitors. You've got to really think about, okay, well, how much does my service actually cost, and how many of those visitors on average actually convert into being a paying customer? And that can take a little bit of testing to do over time to figure that out. But think about the end result. $3,000, that could be a lot of money, and therefore it's definitely worth ranking for those keywords there. Now, moving down a little bit, Armin had another question which I think is interesting and which you might be thinking about. This is more in relation to link building now. So that question was in relation to keyword research, and this is in relation to link building. So Armin says that he has a Moz Pro account, and in the Moz Open Site Explorer. So if we remember that, we used this tool before to really assess the backlink profiles of our competitors, etc. And Armin is using it to really assess his own site. And he says, some of my strong backlinks don't show up. So he knows that he has backlinks from a few big organizations. They're not showing up in the Moz tool, and he's really wondering why. And what I said is, you got to keep in mind that Moz is a third-party tool, and they may not pick up all of your links. So these guys are not connected to your website. They maybe don't have as sophisticated a system as Google for finding links on all of the websites around the world. So what I suggested Armin's do is really check his links in the Google Search Console to see if really Google has picked them up, because that's more important. If Google hasn't picked them up, well then you would start to scratch your head. But if Moz hasn't picked them up, well then that's not such a big deal. So to find out in the Google Search Console where you would actually see if Google has picked up your links is really in here. You can come to search traffic, links to your site, and I've got a brand new site, so there's no links from other sites yet, but this is really where you'd come to check it. And when Armin said, yeah, he said, yes, they are there. Okie dokie, thanks. So those were two questions. One about the keyword research and the value of keywords, even if it's got a small amount of value or volume, and also the links, if they're not showing up in some of these tools, really to check them in the Google Search Console. Now that was the first question. Let us move on to the next one. Now here we have another question from John, and it's really about the backlinks once again. And it's really, what I said about not all backlinks are created equal, really, that backlinks from high authority sites within your niche are going to be more powerful. So he's saying, is there an SEO advantage to placing a web page on a strongly related website? So that's really like a guest post. And really what I've said here is that if the page is a higher page in domain authority, the backlink would be more beneficial from an SEO perspective. So it's better to get a backlink from a web page that is high page in domain authority than it would be to get a backlink from some site that's completely unrelated and has no domain authority. So it's just really to reiterate that point that not all backlinks are created equal, and you should really look for those backlinks from stronger pages within your niche. So here's another question from Rob, and it's really about if you only have a small amount of keywords, how do you spread them over 150 relevant pages? So he said he's in quite a niche website. It's for online drum lessons. And he said there's really only 8 relevant keywords that have search volume. How does he spread these over 150 pages? Because I think he has 150 pages on his website already. And what I said was, you don't really need to spread them over 150 pages. What I would do is focus on the few relevant terms, ensure that the website has dedicated pages with great content around these keywords, and these are the pages that you want to rank in the search results. Remember that not every single page on your website needs to be SEO optimized. You can pull people into your website around maybe 8 key pages, and then they can go deeper and deeper into the site, if that content is relevant. So pull them into the site with those big pages, and then they can go deeper in. And he said that makes really a lot of sense. So remember that not every page on your website is going to be designed to rank in the search engines. You don't want your contact page to rank there. You wouldn't expect your about page to rank there. And maybe not all of your content pages will rank either. But really focus your energies on building links and optimizing those pages that there is search volume for. Get those to rank, and then people can go deeper if they want. Here is another question about the Moz toolbar that we were really seeing in the search results when you want to assess the page authority and domain authority of your competitors. So what Victoria is saying here is that if the Moz tool doesn't give any numbers, like below they appear blank, does this mean that the keyword is bad or should be used? And I've seen this happen to myself before. What I'd really recommend is that you create that account, like log in and actually create it and try and search it again, because sometimes the numbers don't show up, but then when you reload the page logged in, the numbers do show up. So that's the first thing that I would try. If there's no data as well, it doesn't mean it's not a bad keyword. Maybe Moz just does not have information about these competitors. And if it's showing that their PA is very low, well then that's a great thing. That means that there could be a good opportunity for you. So if you see something blank like this, I would definitely log back into Moz, make sure you've got that created account, reload the page, and see then what the page and domain authority of your competitors are. If the page and domain authority is low, that's great. That's a good opportunity for you and a nice keyword for you to target if the search volume and all the other things are good, like the commercial intent, etc. Here we have a question from an e-commerce site from Hafid, and he says he has an e-commerce website in the fashion niche. He wants to understand if content marketing will increase his domain authority. Will it be good for his website to really do this? And what I said to Hafid is maybe start the process by really looking at where your competitors are getting their links and traffic. So go back and really, if you're in a situation like this and you're not sure whether it'll be successful for you, I think the first place to really start off is to have a look at your competitors. Use that Open Site Explorer tool, use Majestic SEO and all of the other ones that I've linked down here to really assess your competitors, and that's a great starting point. You can use the 3 tools here. You can also use SimilarWeb to uncover your competitors' marketing strategies so you can replicate them. So for any type of niche that you're in, it doesn't really matter. You should really start off by looking at your competitors to see what's working for them, and then you can be confident, well, if it's working for them, well, then it should very much work for me as well. So here we have another question about on-page optimization, and the question from Ali really is, are these tips only relevant for WordPress sites? So no, the principles that I've really laid out here for on-page optimization are really relevant for every single type of website that you have. Now the Yoast SEO plugin that I mentioned there is only for WordPress sites. That'll help remind you about all of these different points, but all of the points are listed here, and if you don't have a WordPress site, you can double check it using this tool as well. So on-page optimization is definitely not something just for WordPress. You want to do it for every single site. The next question we have here is from Agnieszka. It's in relation to link building, and she's asking, she's noticed that there are a lot of backlinks to her website that have a high spam score. If you remember, what we said is you want to get backlinks to your site that are from high authority websites within your niche. And what Agnieszka has noticed is that she's got a lot of links from spammy websites. Now, I'm not sure how she got these, but in a lot of cases, website owners think that they can get links easily if they just buy them for $5 or $10. The problem a lot of the time with that can be is that these links come from very spammy sites. So she's worried now she might be getting a penalty from Google because she's got a lot of these spammy sites that make her website look spammy. What you should do if you want to see if you've got a penalty is come into your Google Search Console. You'll get a notification here under security issues if there is anything. So that's what I advised her to do. The next thing that you can do is you can actually remove these bad links using the Google Disavow tool. Well, you don't actually remove them because they're on the other websites, but you can essentially ask Google to ignore those links using this tool. And you can just type this into Google Disavow. You can come here to, it's inside the Google Search Console once again, Disavow Tools. You can come into Disavow Links. Now I don't have any links on this site right now, but you'd really come in here to disavow them here, and you're essentially telling Google to ignore them. To recap then, you really want those high quality backlinks coming to your site. If you are in a situation like this, firstly check if you've got a penalty inside the Google Search Console, then use the Google Disavow tool to ask Google to really ignore those spammy backlinks. The next question here is from Glenford. It really relates to link building, and he's asking about directory submissions. What he said is he's just wondering if submitting your site to directories, not paid online one, is considered SEO. So an online directory is really a place where you can list your website or business. It could be something like Yelp, TripAdvisor, that's an online directory. But there are other types of directories that are specifically built just with the purpose of getting a backlink. And what I said to Glenford here is it really depends. If the directories are well-known authority sites related to your niche, then I'd say go for it. Something like Yelp, you obviously want to be listed on that. But if it's some sort of outsourced service an outsourced service and you don't know where they'll submit your site, then it's best to take care. This relates to the last question we have. You don't want a lot of spammy links to your website. So you really want to, if this is some outsourced service like we'll submit your website to 500 directories, maybe you should really take care, because there's no real bad way to build links. It all comes down to how it's performed. If it's some type of automated process that's designed to manipulate the system, then that's something that Google might penalize you for. So really this is a way that people use to build links to your website. If it's some type of automated process, I'd probably stay away from it. But if it's something like creating your profile on Yelp, then that's obviously a great way to get in front of your audience there and their audience, and you might even get a do follow backlink from these profiles here. To recap then, if someone is offering to build links to your website, just try and understand really where these links are coming from. Otherwise you can get yourself into trouble and have to do a lot of work cleaning all those links up in the Google Disavow tool, etc. Coming up next, I've got some SEO tips for local businesses. So this will really help you out if you have a physical location for your business. Now, if you have a business with a physical location where you receive customers, you're going to find this lecture very helpful, because in it I'm going to give you some additional tips for local SEO to really show you how you can bring your local business to the top of the search results. Now, I recommend you do these things in addition to all of the points we've already looked at in this checklist, but right at the bottom of this checklist here, you can see I put in a link to additional tips here, and that'll open up the page here. You can also come to completedigitalmarketingcourse.com/local-SEO. And the notes are really here. You can see that there's not too many. We could probably get through all of this in this longer lecture, but I think it is important to really take a minute to understand how these search engines are different for local search results, and really how that should change your search engine marketing strategy. In particular, I'm going to show you why it's important to claim your Google My Business profile, and also to set up profiles for your business on Yelp, Facebook, and TripAdvisor. Each of these online local directories are slightly different, so it's important you understand how they are different and how they can all fit into helping you really dominate the search results and gather priceless feedback and testimonials. Now, the key reason that I'm making this separate lecture on local SEO is really because Google treats searches for local businesses differently in the search results. For example, if I type in something like this restaurant here, it's a local restaurant where I am here in Dublin, and you can see that there is a huge really preview of the business and its profile here in the sidebar. You can see it takes up a massive amount of real estate, and for normal keywords that we search for, that does not appear. This is called your Google My Business profile, and you can see here that there's a review system built in. There's also Google Maps integrated. There's also the address, the opening hours, the phone, the popular times. The reviews are listed here, and also then a link off to the website, etc. So this is why local businesses are really different, why there's an extra element there, because there is this Google My Business profile. And also, even if you don't just search for the brand name, but if I search for something like a burger in Dublin, like if I wanted to find a restaurant, you can see that Google displays the Google Local Pack, which is really a summary of the top 3 profiles, Google My Business profiles in your area for that particular keyword. So you can see that is slightly different. There's this extra element that we don't normally talk about for like content marketing, etc. And your strategy could be overall a little bit different. You might not be putting out so much content, but the key part of ranking in the search engines for a local business is really building up good reviews on these profiles, because that is really the main metric that determines discoverability and rank. The businesses that have the most reviews here are going to appear at the top for those keywords. Now coming back to our local SEO notes here, and now that you understand why local SEO is slightly different, let's look at why local SEO is even more important than ever. So there are three main reasons that I want to cover quickly why, if you haven't set up these profiles, Google My Business, you should really do it as soon as possible. And the first reason that you should do it as soon as possible, and hopefully this will give you some urgency, is because of the growth of mobile and wearable devices. Google knows that a huge amount of people are searching on mobiles now, and so they're giving preference to businesses that are mobile optimized, and also they are really tailoring a lot of their searches to mobile devices. So it's a key emerging way that Google is really presenting information to people. Not a lot of people and businesses are taking full advantage of this, so there still is a bit of a lag in terms of businesses catching up. Those businesses that can really dominate the local SEO are going to have such an advantage now, but even more so in the future when mobile and wearable devices become even more popular. And I included this link in here to the article that showed that Google has actually more mobile searches than on desktop. That happened back in 2015. They were expecting it for a long time, and the trend is just continuing that way. So it's important to really get set up for local SEO now before it becomes even more difficult. The second reason why local SEO is more important now than ever, and how it's going to help you grow your business, is that local searchers are ready to act. I know personally, when I'm searching, say in the city center, and I'm looking for a hardware store, I'm looking for a restaurant to go to at my friends, I'm ready to act, I'm ready to buy. That's not the case, say, when I'm searching from home. I'm not in the place where I can buy immediately, but on my mobile, generally, I'm so close to where I can potentially make a purchase that if you appear in the local searches, then you're going to have customers who are really hot and ready to buy. And that is a very different marketing strategy than maybe hitting them with an ad in a local newspaper, or even dropping a leaflet in the door. They can't buy there because they're in their home. They're so far from maybe where your business is, but for the local search results, they're right there. Now, the final point why local SEO is more important now than ever is that competition is increasing. More people are starting to realize the power of local SEO, and so it's really important you start building your reviews and profiles now. Every day there's new businesses being set up, and really the quicker that you can get set up, you will have that advantage of those historical reviews to really grow your business faster. Okay, so that is a little bit of a background on why you should give a lot of importance to local SEO and really get ahead of the competition and start building up your reviews and profiles seriously. Now that you understand how SEO is different for local businesses, why it's more important now than ever, in this part of this lecture now, what we're going to do is really look at the important things that every local business should do. And the first and the most important thing is that you should claim your Google My Business profile. Now, as I showed you here with this example, this is really the Google My Business profile, and this is what you want it to look like at the end of the day. To set it up, it's very, very simple. You can just claim your Google My Business profile here. Google will really walk you through all of the steps to make that happen. And there is one caveat with this setup process. It's not automatic. Google will actually send you out a postcard to really confirm your physical address. So it is important. I think there's maybe a week or 2 weeks till that gets sent out fully and your location is confirmed. But if you want to get started, all you have to do is come into this link. You can type in your business name and address and really see if there is any Google My Business business registered there, because you don't want to duplicate and set up a new one. You can really come in and see if it has been registered. But the setup process is easy. You just want to make sure you're filling it out 100%. Now, coming back to the notes, there is one important thing that when you're setting up your Google My Business profile and even these other profiles as well, you want to make sure that your name, address, and phone number is really consistent across all profiles, and that's really known as NAP. The reason is because if in these search results Google sees that you have put in an address here that's slightly different to the address here, even if it's something like ST rather than street, or if you put in here that your opening times are this and on your website it's slightly different, or on any of these other profiles it's different, Google will really push your site and these other profiles down in the search results because they see that information as being inaccurate. So what I suggest you do before you set up your Google My Business profile or the other profiles is you actually write down on a piece of paper the exact details that you'll be using across all profiles, and make sure that if there's any changes in opening times in the future or days of the week that you're open, etc., that you really update them across everything and not just maybe one like your Google My Business profile. So that's the most important thing to do. Claim your Google My Business profile, and the reason this is the most important is because it gets such huge visibility and Google gives it such huge visibility. There's a lot of people competing now for the local search and review market. You've got Google here, you've got Facebook with their local business pages and review systems, you've got TripAdvisor, you've got Yelp as well. Here's another one, Zomato. There's a lot of people competing for this space, menu pages, but really Google controls the real estate, they control the search results, and obviously they're going to give preference to their own product. So if you want to really just focus on one to get started, this is the really one that you should be working on. Okay, so after you set up your Google My Business profile and filled out all the details, the next thing that you should do is continue to set up more than just that. You really want to dominate the search results and gather priceless feedback and testimonials from as many people as possible, so you can really dominate the search results for your keywords like this business has done here. It's their website, then their Facebook, then their TripAdvisor, then another review here from a local food blog, and you can see that if anybody is searching for this, there's no chance that they're going to any other result. They've really dominated the whole first page for their own brand name, which is absolutely fantastic. So what you want to do is take a look at some of these other profiles. Now the first one is Yelp, and what I've included here is a link to actually claim your business on Yelp. Now let's talk about some of the advantages of Yelp and how it's maybe different than building up the profiles on some of these other platforms. I'm going to make the distinctions as well with Facebook and TripAdvisor and where they can really play a part in your local marketing strategy. But let's start with Yelp and really how it's different. It's purpose built really for reviews only. That's all that it does. That's different to maybe Facebook, where the review system is just a small part of their Facebook page. It's not the main reason that people use Facebook. The main reason that people use Facebook is really to share and connect with their friends. But the main reason that people use Yelp is really to leave reviews. That's what the whole thing is really built for. You can see here, write a review is front and center on the page. Whereas on the Facebook page, it's really even hard to see where you do leave a review. It's not easy, and it's not really a priority for them. There's a small tab here that shows them, and yeah, I can write a review in here, but you can see it's not as front and center, and as a result the feedback and the reviews that you get are not as detailed. The great thing about Yelp is that people often leave quite detailed reviews. For example, even a review this long with photos and stars and a check-in is not normal. You wouldn't see something that big generally on Facebook. You can see there actually are for this restaurant some long reviews, but there definitely isn't the kind of the check-in and all of the photos there. So as well as the reviews being a bit more detailed with images and check-ins, another thing is that people really create profiles. You can see how many reviews they've left if they're an elite Yelper. And there seems to be a very passionate group of people who go and review restaurants and new places and that's why it's really important as well. Not only can you get these great pieces of feedback and testimonials, but you can get into the influence of these people, serious Yelpers, who often have like food blogs, and they do this semi-professionally, reviewing places. They have a social influence that you can really tap into, which is not as prevalent on, say, Facebook. So there's a community of people here that if they like your business, if you're in the Yelp ecosystem, they can really start to promote you out to their audience. And that is a great advantage of Yelp. So those are some of the advantages of Yelp. You can dominate the search results, you can gather that feedback, and also get into the sphere of influence of those serious Yelpers. Now, the next profile that you can set up is really your Facebook page, and this is the example that we've really been looking at here. Now, the key reason that you might want to be on Facebook is to leverage what Facebook is really best at, and that is using other people's social networks to market your business. Everybody on Facebook, the average number of friends that people have is 200. So that's 200 people for each person who likes your page, who shares your post, that can really help to promote your business to their friends. We talk a lot about social networks, but Facebook is really the best example of that. It has such a viral effect built into it because people are really connected to their friends. So in terms of friends, sharing posts, liking posts, commenting on posts, tagging friends, that's a huge way to get your business into the sphere of attention of their friends. And we'll be talking about that more in the Facebook marketing section of the course. But it's just important to understand how that is different from Yelp. Yelp doesn't have that built in. Google doesn't have that built in the search engines and the Google My Business profile, and TripAdvisor doesn't have that built in. There isn't that social network driving all of that interaction. So that is why Facebook is really important and how it should play a part in your local marketing strategy. Now, the final profile that you can really set up is TripAdvisor, and once again I've linked off to the page here where you can list your business on TripAdvisor. Now, TripAdvisor is a site primarily used by tourists to research what they're going to do once they arrive at their holiday destination. So this particular local directory is really for restaurants, hotels, attractions, things to do, or vacation rentals. So it's not for every single business. Obviously, you're not going to go to the dentist or a hardware store when you're on holidays, but if you want to tap into the tourist market, you should really put your profile here. They have an internal search engine within TripAdvisor that shows things to do, restaurants to see. Again, there's a big community of people, and if you want to tap into the tourist dollar, then this is really the place that you can do it. At the end of the day, business is business, and if it's local customers or customers who are just visiting, it doesn't really matter. This platform really gives them a voice to detail their experience, and essentially it works in the same way as Yelp or Facebook reviews. People can really leave their reviews, and there is a great system there encouraging people to come back and leave more reviews, and you can see how many people have seen your reviews, which is encouraging. And I must say, I've left reviews on TripAdvisor, and I think they do a good way of getting you to come back to the site to see how many people see your reviews, etc. So that is really TripAdvisor. It really does tap into the tourist market, and if that plays a part in your business, you should really use that as well. So that is really Google My Business, Yelp, Facebook, and TripAdvisor. They all have slightly different benefits. Yelp, there's a big community there. Facebook is that leveraging that social network that people have. TripAdvisor is building into that tourist market. Now, for all of these profiles, what really is consistent across all of them is that positive reviews are the primary metric that drive discoverability and rank. So within the platforms itself and on the search results in Google, it's really those positive reviews that drive the discoverability and rank. And so what you should really think about is how do you get more reviews? And the easiest way to get more reviews is to ask customers to leave reviews. Now that is a simple thing to say, but it can be harder in practice. But one strategy that I would encourage you to use is to, if you have enthusiastic customers, really start by asking them how they found out about your business, so you can get really a sense of where they might leave a review. So if they said that we heard it from friends on Facebook, or they said we read the reviews in TripAdvisor, then you can build up a bit of a rapport with them. And then as they are leaving, you can just ask them, hey, it'd be great if you could tell your friends on TripAdvisor, or even leave it open, like, come back anytime and bring your friends or tell your friends. Even that, making that connection for them about where they heard about your business and that they have to then tell their friends, then they can really put the two pieces together and finish it out. So this is a very simple strategy, but it does work. And the reason I know is because a business owner did it to me, and I really left a review as a result. I was in Malta on holidays, and I wanted to take a boat trip and do some outdoor activities. And I was really blown away by how this business had so many more reviews than every single person and every other business that does similar things. And really the way that they got that was the business owner came around, talked to every single person, asked them, how they found out about it. And then at the end of the boat trip, once he had made a connection with us, he asked us, tell your friends. He left it as open as that, but he'd already figured out that we'd read the reviews on TripAdvisor, and we talked a little bit about the platform and how great it was for finding out information. So the connection was made, and as a result I did leave a review, and it was a 5-star one. Now the final tip to really wrap up this local SEO section of the course is really how to respond to negative reviews and not to be afraid to do that. Obviously, if you're putting yourself on all of these review platforms, now and again you're going to get a review that isn't as positive, but I would really encourage you to respond to that review, and it can actually help you generate more reviews because it shows the business owners are listening. And at the end of the day, that's really the most important thing for a lot of customers, that somebody has actually listened to their feedback, taken it on board. And you can also use that negative review as an opportunity to point to solutions or fixes and encourage the next person who comes along and reads that review to actually become a customer and come along for a visit. To give you an example of that, there's a review here for a local gym where I live, and you can see that there is a comment here. It's 4 stars, which is pretty positive, but there are some suggestions that the person has made. It talks about limited space and that you have to wait around for the showers and lockers to be ready, etc. Now there was a response from the owner here, and he says, "Thanks for posting. We appreciate your review. We are delighted to announce that there are new, bigger FlyFit gyms opening soon on Georgia Street and South Circular Road." So this is really a solution to the guy's problem here. He says they're not spacious, they're crowded. And so what the owner is doing is using that as an opportunity to really promote the new openings that they're having, which do solve the problem. They're opening new gyms that takes other people out of the big main gym. But it's a great way to really promote some of those new gyms. And if anybody sees this now, it's really closed out the issue. They won't see it as a negative thing, and they'll actually become aware of some of the options. So I hope to see you there next time. So that is just a great example of someone turning a negative review around and really setting it up so the next person who reads it really will come along and visit. So that's what I really recommend for local SEO. It's maybe not such a content marketing strategy, but it's more based on these local business profiles, Google My Business being the most important, and then Facebook, TripAdvisor, and Yelp. And they all have slightly different benefits. Yelp really tapping into that community of people, Facebook leveraging that social network, and TripAdvisor really tapping into that tourist dollar. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this bonus lecture for your local business, and I'll see you in the next section of the course. That really wraps up the SEO section of this course. You have now gone through every single point on this checklist and understand it, covering all aspects of SEO, the technical part, the keyword research part, the actually writing SEO optimized content, link building. And so you have now all the strategies to really get traffic from the search engines to your website and to really do that for long-term traffic. That's one of the key benefits of SEO. It really is a long-term traffic, and it can pay off in a big way if you're leveraging the search engines and Google to really sell your business for you and to sell and really send traffic to. So that's the big advantage, and it's definitely worth getting grips with SEO because it is a great skill. You don't only use it on your own website, you can leverage those skills and knowledge about keywords and keyword research and bring them to platforms like YouTube. And that's really what we're getting into the next section of this course. You can really leverage what you've learned here, especially about keywords and keyword research, and bring them to YouTube. YouTube is a search engine, it's owned by Google, so you can implement many of the same strategies there to really get to the top of these search results quickly, and then also benefit from the traffic on YouTube itself. I really look forward to seeing you in the next section of the course, where you're going to learn how to drive targeted traffic from YouTube back to your website. I'll see you there.